Imagine waking up one morning, scrolling through your phone, and seeing the headline, "Trump imposes new tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China." Panic sets in across industries. Boardrooms fill with executives pacing nervously, and economists scramble to predict the ripple effects. This isn't just a news headline. It's the start of an economic upheaval that could reshape global trade as we know it. Trump revealed a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada and Mexico, sparing only Canadian energy products, which would face a slightly lower 10% tariff. For China, a flat 10% tariff was imposed across various goods. The president, flanked by key economic advisors, cited national security, illegal immigration, and the opioid crisis, specifically fentanyl trafficking, as primary reasons for this drastic move. Trump's rhetoric was fiery. For too long, America has been taken advantage of. Our borders are flooded, our industries are threatened, and our people are suffering. These tariffs are a wake-up call to the world. America will no longer be your economic doormat. But beneath the bold statements lay complex motivations. The administration claimed that foreign nations had been unfairly benefiting from trade deals, leading to job losses in key American industries. Trump argued that tariffs would incentivize domestic production, boost employment, and strengthen national security. As the news broke, markets reacted with volatility. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged 800 points within hours, reflecting investor anxiety. Social media exploded with hashtags like "Trying Trade War 2025, "Another Tariff Tsunami" trending. Worldwide, analysts on major news networks dissected every word from Trump's speech, speculating on the potential fallout. This wasn't Trump's first dance with tariffs. His previous presidency saw similar moves, notably the 2018 trade war with China, which led to fluctuating markets and strained diplomatic relations. But 2025 felt different. The stakes were higher, the rhetoric sharper, and the global economy more fragile post-pandemic recovery. Canada, as America's largest trading partner, Canada faced immediate economic tremors. Key sectors like lumber, automotive parts, and agriculture were hit hard. The Canadian dollar dipped, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called an emergency cabinet meeting, vowing a strong and measured response. Mexico's export-driven economy braced for impact. Industries reliant on U.S. markets, from avocados to automobiles, faced uncertainty. President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the tariffs, emphasizing the need for diplomatic dialogue. China, although facing a lower tariff rate, China viewed the move as a continuation of the ongoing economic rivalry. Beijing's response was swift and strategic, hinting at potential countermeasures that could disrupt tech and rare earth supply chains. Mark, the factory worker, Ohio. Mark had been working at an auto parts plant for 15 years. When the tariffs were announced, he feared for his job. "We've already seen layoffs before with the last trade war. Now I'm worried I'll be next. How do I tell my kids we can't afford their college anymore?" Sofia, the avocado farmer, Michoacan, Mexico. Sofia exports 80% of her produce to the U.S. The new tariffs meant potential price hikes that could drive American buyers to cheaper markets. Now, this isn't just numbers on a screen. It's my family's livelihood. Leading economists predict that the tariffs could lead to price increases. Everyday goods like cars, electronics, and groceries could see price hikes of up to 15%. Job losses. Industries dependent on exports and imports face potential layoffs. Global supply chain disruptions. Companies may struggle to adapt to new cost structures, leading to delays and shortages. Critics argue that Trump's move is politically motivated, designed to rally his base with a tough-on-trade stance ahead of the upcoming election. Supporters, however, praise his commitment to putting America first, claiming the tariffs will ultimately lead to stronger domestic industries. Interestingly, not all impacts were negative. Some American manufacturers saw a temporary boost as companies sought domestic alternatives to foreign goods. However, experts warn that these gains may be short-lived if retaliatory tariffs from other countries escalate the situation into a full-blown trade war. As the ink dried on President Trump's new tariff orders, diplomatic cables buzzed across continents. Leaders in Ottawa, Mexico City, and Beijing convened emergency meetings. The message was clear. Retaliation was not just an option, it was inevitable shmee. Minister Justin Trudeau stood at the podium in Ottawa, his expression a blend of resolve and defiance. Flanked by his economic advisors and trade ministers, Trudeau announced, "Canada will not be bullied. We stand for fair trade and we will respond proportionally to protect Canadian workers and industries." Canada imposed counter tariffs totaling $155 billion, targeting iconic American goods such as bourbon whiskey from Kentucky, motorcycles from Wisconsin, orange juice from Florida, household goods, lumber, and aluminum. These tariffs weren't random. They were surgical strikes aimed at industries vital to the U.S. economy and strategically important in swing states. The Canadian dollar initially dipped but quickly stabilized as markets adjusted to the new reality. Across Canada, there was a surge of national pride. Social media campaigns like Orange Stand with Canada and Nourishing Fair Trade Now trended globally. Canadian consumers vowed to buy local and reduce reliance on American products. Liam, the dairy farmer from Quebec, said, "When Trump imposed tariffs on our dairy products, it felt like an attack on our livelihood, but Trudeau's response gave us hope. We're resilient and will adapt." Sophie, the tech entrepreneur from Toronto, commented, "The tech industry is global. Tariffs create uncertainty, which is bad for our business. But I believe in Canada's ability to innovate through adversity." In Mexico City, President Claudia Sheinbaum addressed the nation with fiery rhetoric. "Mexico will not sit idly by while our economy is threatened. We reject these unjust tariffs and will defend our sovereignty with all necessary measures." Mexico's response was twofold: tariff retaliation, imposing tariffs on American agricultural products, including corn, soybeans, pork, beef, dairy products, and processed foods, and non-tariff barriers, increasing regulatory inspections at borders, causing delays and additional costs for U.S. exporters. These measures hit American farmers hard, especially in states that heavily depend on exports to Mexico. Prices of agricultural commodities fluctuated wildly, leading to protests from farming communities in the U.S. Carlos, the auto worker from Monterrey, shared, "Our factory exports car parts to the U.S. every day. Tariffs mean fewer orders and potential layoffs. It's a tough time, but we Mexicans are tough people." Maria, the small business owner from Guadalajara, noted, "Imported American goods are more expensive now, but this is an opportunity to support local businesses. We've got great products right here in Mexico." While Canada and Mexico reacted swiftly, China played the long game. Beijing issued a carefully worded statement condemning the U.S. tariffs, but their actions were far more nuanced. China imposed tariffs on U.S. technology products, agricultural, our goods, especially soybeans, and automobiles. China also hinted at restricting exports of rare earth minerals, crucial for U.S. tech industries. This move sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley, with CEOs voicing concerns about supply chain disruptions. China strengthened trade alliances with the European Union and other Asian economies, positioning itself as a leader in global trade amidst U.S. isolationism. Li Wei, the tech developer from Shenzhen, remarked, "We rely on components from the U.S. for our smartphones. Tariffs complicate things, but it pushes us to develop our own technologies." Zhang Min, the soybean trader from Beijing, added, "American soybeans are more expensive now. We're looking at Brazil as an alternative supplier. It's a shift, but it's manageable." Stock markets around the world experienced turbulence. The Dow Jones saw sharp declines, with tech and agriculture stocks taking the biggest hits. The Toronto Stock Exchange initially dipped but rebounded as Canadian industries adjusted. Mexico's Bolsa faced volatility, particularly in sectors tied to U.S. exports. The Shanghai Composite demonstrated resilience, buoyed by strong domestic policies and international partnerships. The tariffs sparked heated debates within the U.S. Congress. Some lawmakers supported Trump's aggressive stance, while others warned of the long-term economic damage. Protests erupted across American cities, with farmers and factory workers demanding relief. Interestingly, The trade war led to new alliances. The EU-Canada Trade Pact strengthened economic ties, reducing reliance on U.S. markets. Mexico and China enhanced cooperation in technology and agriculture. Emergency G7 and G20 meetings were held to address the escalating trade tensions. Picture this: a bustling supermarket in the heart of New York City. Shoppers push their carts down familiar aisles, but something feels different. Prices have surged overnight. A carton of milk cost $6.99, up from $3.49 the week before. Imported. Fruits are scarce, and even the humble loaf of bread carries a premium price tag. This isn't a scene from a dystopian future. It's the immediate aftermath of an economic shift triggered by a cascade of tariffs. When tariffs are imposed, they don't just affect the countries directly involved. They set off a chain reaction that ripples through global supply chains, industries, and ultimately the wallets of everyday people. U.S. car manufacturers rely heavily on imported parts from Canada, Mexico, and China. Tariffs mean higher costs for raw materials like steel and aluminum, driving up the price of every vehicle. Factories in Detroit and Ohio report layoffs. Assembly lines slow down as companies struggle to absorb the rising costs without passing them on to consumers. The price of new cars jumps by an average of $2,000, making it harder for middle-class families to afford a vehicle. American farmers, particularly soybean, corn, and dairy producers, face plummeting export orders. Mexico and China, once major buyers, turn to other markets like Brazil and Argentina. In Iowa and Nebraska, farmers organize protests. Their signs reading, "Tariffs are the taxes on us." Many face bankruptcy, unable to sell their crops as sustainable. Prices. Tech giants like Apple and Tesla struggle with increased costs for components sourced from China. This leads to delays in product launches and higher prices for gadgets. R&D budgets are slashed to compensate for lost profits, potentially stifling future technological advancements. Jake, the auto worker from Michigan, says, "I've been on this assembly line for 12 years. Last week they laid off half my team. It's not just a job, it's how I feed my family. Now I don't know what's next." Emily, the farmer from Iowa, shares, "We planted soybeans like every year, but this time there's no one to buy them. Watching our crops rot while our debts pile up is heartbreaking." Companies seek alternatives to avoid tariffs, leading to new manufacturing hubs in Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe. This shift creates economic opportunities in emerging markets, but leaves traditional industrial regions struggling. The US dollar strengthens initially due to safe haven demand, but faces volatility as trade tensions persist. Emerging market currencies fluctuate wildly, impacting global investment flows. Everyday goods, from electronics to groceries, become more expensive. A family's monthly expenses increase by an estimated $300 to $500. With supply chains disrupted, some products disappear from shelves altogether. Paul Krugman notes, "Tariffs are a blunt instrument. They may protect certain jobs in the short term, but destroy many more in the long run." Janet Yellen comments, "The ripple effects of these tariffs will be felt globally, potentially triggering a recession if not managed carefully." Countries bypass the U.S., forming new trade agreements with Europe, Asia, and Africa. The U.S. risks losing its position as the leader of the global economic order. Small businesses lacking the resources to absorb higher costs face closures. Entrepreneurs struggle to compete with foreign companies unaffected by U.S. tariffs. Some industries see a temporary revival as companies reshore operations. Businesses develop more resilient, diversified supply networks. Reduced global shipping lowers carbon emissions temporarily. Germany feels the pinch, but leverages its strong EU ties to adapt. Vietnam becomes a new manufacturing hub, attracting companies fleeing tariff-affected regions. Brazil emerges as a key agricultural supplier, replacing U.S. exports in Chinese markets. Trade policy becomes a central issue in U.S. elections. Candidates debate the merits and failures of protectionism. Strained relationships require new diplomatic efforts to rebuild trust and cooperation. Consumer confidence declines as uncertainty looms, leading to reduced spending and slower economic growth. Job insecurity affects mental health, increasing Stress and anxiety nationwide. Sarah, the startup founder from California, reflects, "The tariffs hit us hard, but we pivoted. We found new suppliers, adapted our business model, and now we're thriving in ways we never expected." Mohammed, the engineer from Texas, says, "Losing my job was devastating, but it pushed me to start my own consulting firm. Sometimes disruption is the catalyst for growth." As dust settles on this economic battlefield, the world looks different. Trade routes have shifted, industries have evolved, and individuals have adapted.